Okay, so now we're back. We had to upload the first part of the video so that we could free up some memory, and now we're back to part 2 of assembly of the bottom carriages. As you can see, we've got 3 sets of carriages available to us. That's the 3 sides of the triangle, and we've configured it so that 2 of our wires are facing one direction and 1 is facing the other. It doesn't really matter too much, but the reason that we're doing this is so that we have good wire management later on. Now, there are a couple of pieces that we haven't experimented with. For the Explorer kit, you're going to be getting a RAMPS 1.4 with an Arduino Mega 2560 controller board, and that needs to be mounted somewhere. Now, in the olden days, people would just place it on top of the wires underneath the carriage, and that was fine, but somebody said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had a printed part that we could do that? And so the way that people do these nowadays is that they'll actually assemble the printer, and they will have the board on the inside. So you can imagine if this were smaller, then this would be sitting on the inside. Now there's a problem with this. And the problem is that those RAMPS boards actually get hot. And so if you have the RAMPS board on the inside and you have these stepper motors and you have all of this other stuff going on, there's a potential that things could overheat. And so I actually prefer to mount all of my electronics on the outside of the device. That keeps it cooler, it keeps good airflow, and that allows things to have a little bit more longevity. Alright? Now, before we assemble the triangle, what we'll do is we'll just get this RAMPS ready to install. If you want to install it on the inside, that's fine. Points for style. But, like I said, I'm going to configure this to go on the outside because I think that that's the right way to do it. So just like before, we just put these little screws on. Just a little bit. And then we're going to grab one side of our triangle. It doesn't matter which one. And we're going to slide this in here. Sometimes you have to squeeze and then slide it in and slide it in. Now, we're not going to tighten this super tight. Okay? As a matter of fact, that's plenty for us because we're going to want to move this around later. But we wanted to put that on because later we won't have access to these nuts. Also, if you're going to be installing an LCD later, you'll probably want to put a couple of screws in here so that you don't have to assemble your printer later. So, let's take it to the next step. What we want to do now, my screw came off. So let me put the screw back in. What we want to do now is slowly assemble the triangle to create our base. We have to do it this way because it's a triangle. So what we'll do is we'll take 2 of the sides and we'll line up these nuts into the T-slot of our open beam extrusions. We'll just get that to seat right in there like that. Okay, just far enough in. We're going to do the same thing over here. Get them to line up. Even if you can't see very well, it's just like the last one. Okay, the looser these are, the better, because that gives us a better wiggle room. So we got the first one going. We get the second one in there. When you do this without swearing, you get extra points. One of these nuts came off, so we'll just spin that on a little bit. And one thing to keep in mind is that each of these frame parts they're basically parallel on the top and the bottom. They're basically symmetrical on the top and the bottom. You can't, there's no such thing really as getting them upside down. The main thing that you want to do is just get them going. Now that's not the case for the top ones, but for the bottom ones, they'll work just as well either way. You don't have to worry too much about that. So now we've got the first set lined up, and we're slowly going to squeeze them together. Now you can see why we couldn't just start and work our way around. We had to assemble a side at a time, because you have to gradually reduce the size of the triangle. Until we get them all against the other screws. Then, this is where it becomes a little bit tricky, but not too bad. Try to get one going. Remember, the looser the better, and so if these little screws pop off from time to time, don't worry about it. You're not doing anything wrong. Use an Allen wrench to get this screw spinning back on. Okay. Lift it. I just want the flat sides to go in. And presto on that one. We're not going to be able to get it all the way over there, but we do want to move to the other side. So come over here and we do the same. We have to get these a little bit tighter on there. Well, that's okay. Okay, so once they're in there pretty well like that, just using this little Allen wrench to kind of get the sides to line up. Can't really force something like this. You have to coax it in. We'll go in, we'll get the last one. Spin it a little bit. And we can take this last one, push it in. That. All right. Okay, and what we'll do now is just get these to slide all the way in. They're lined up. We'll tighten them down. And we're going to charge the camera, and we're going to do the top rails next.